Yeah, so the stock market is going up and down, which is interesting because I kind of wanted to go down when I want to invest a bit more into the stock market, but at the same time, like I want to eventually for it to go up, and the specific stock or ETF comes into mind is VOO. VOO this entire week since Monday has been at a decline. It peaked on Monday at opening at 689 a share, and right now it's at 680. So there's a $9 difference between the top and where it is right now. But mind you, like if you go down by now and times that by the number of shares that someone owns, so say somebody owns 100 shares of VOO, so that'll be. But then again, it's never that simple, right? It depends what time did you deploy that, and also how much of it. So it starts to get messy, and that's the reason why we see the market graph. We see it as it is now because it's very unpredictable. It goes up and down, and of course there's those tools and seminars like that you can learn from where it's a candle, where it's a triangle, all this crap. I don't really pay attention to it. I'm not really the trader type of person. I just deploy, and I do have some speculative shares or speculative single stocks that I'm eventually betting on that it'll go up. It's not much. It's a really tiny portion of my portfolio. Nonetheless, most of my money is in securities, ETFs, and the rest are on single stocks that I'm hoping eventually it'll go up. And they're not like stocks that that are unproven, or companies that are unproven, or some meme stock that I don't bet on any of it. What I do bet on is the history of the stock market for this particular stock. Essentially, there's a stock called Copa. So Copa Holdings, the ticket symbol is CPA. So Copa Airlines is obviously an airlines that operates out of Panama. I've flown with them before, and I like their Panama hub. But to my point, I've been reading on how they manage the entire business and how they manage their finances. And what I've learned is that they handle their money a bit more with care and operate with a higher margin as opposed to the American counterparts. In other words, because of the Iran situation that happened earlier in March, the airline stock markets just pretty much tanked for a bit, and Copa was the one who stood its ground. So it got me thinking: if it peaked if it was doing well before the crash and it's still doing better than everybody else relative, then I'm thinking that Copa is a good way to invest some of your cash, and then don't look at it for a while. The other costs average a very small amounts, and then sell when you're ready to sell. And so I bought it when I kept on buying it when it was around 110 to 130 a share. I wasn't buying shares left and right. I was like a share here, a half a share there. Tossing some money into it, and then it peaked for me at 150 something, and that's when I sold. Right now it's hovering at between like 158 ish, whatever. I'm pretty okay with the gains that I got from it. I'm not really the type to be greedy. I focus on what I could have gotten, more on the okay, cool, I sold, and so I have to pay taxes on what I earned. So that's pretty much the mindset that I have. Smaller speculative single stocks that are a part of my portfolio. Fortunately, because they are short-term capital gains, it is taxed like income, and so my income is pretty higher. So I'm gonna get screwed. But it's fine though. I would rather have the extra 200 as opposed to not having it at all. Yes, I have that. The cup is half full type of mentality. But I'm not worried about the single stocks, even though I've also been burned by certain stocks in the past too. Not by much. There's something called tax loss harvesting, which is if I have a lot more in the green and I want to sell some in the red, then I take big green and a small green, or sorry, the big green and the small red, and pick the difference, and I'm left with a smaller green. So that's essentially the idea behind the tax loss harvesting. But anyways, that's besides. The idea of this video is for me to try to move those who are hesitating to invest in the stock market, and pretty much try to convince than with the idea of eventually starting, not necessarily doing it right now. So this is my experience that I have learned throughout the 5 years I have invested in the stock market. So the first thing that I learned is simple. First thing is that I wish I had invested a little bit more, and so this is one thing that I want to share with you guys. It just happened to be a regret. So the regret is I wish I had invested more, and so what that means in on paper, if you want to look at my finances, which I won't share the details, but essentially what I'm saying is I had invested a certain amount. I was very cautious. I was very okay. Let's do one thing at a time. And there was a year where I completely forgot about it, but that didn't start. Anyways, I invested into the stock market. Of course, it went down. Of course, it went up. But eventually, it went more up and down. So, I'm sorry, it went more up than it went down. So, I haven't seen red in a while. Only up until recently when the Iran thing happened. That's because I was a bit more bullish when it was December time. We know the thing that happened with Venezuela, and it kind of took the stock market a bit down, but also increased the oil and defense company stocks to through upward. So
Return to the combat area.
Hey, come back! You should be over there! That'll choke him out!
Return to the combat area. Return to the combat area.
Hey, soldier, get back over here!
Return.